The Western Conference may be as stacked as it ever has been in recent memory. Kyrie and Luka run the backcourt in Dallas, Steph and Draymond still doing solid in Golden State, Ja Morant in Memphis, Nikola Jokic in Denver, and don't sleep on the Sacramento Kings, Clippers, and New Orleans Pelicans. All of those teams have pieces to make a championship run, but with KD now being on the Suns, it's going to be a lot harder for those teams to accomplish that. But just what did the Suns get by getting Kevin Durant? Well, let's get into it. KD is averaging 29 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1.5 blocks per game while shooting 93% from the free throw line, 37% from 3, and 56% from the field. So yeah, the 34-year-old hasn't slowed down even the tiniest of bits. For one, he's still the best mid-range scorer in the NBA. He's ranked first in the NBA in shots within 10 to 14 feet, and third in the NBA in shots within 15 to 19 feet, shooting 57% on 3 attempts per game. And he would be number 1 in that category as well if he took more attempts from there. But the things he can do in the mid-range can't be rivaled. Not only because he's 7 feet tall, but he also has great handles for his size. We all remember how he put Wizards center Daniel Gafford on the floor before hitting the short mid-range jumper. But of course, his height definitely makes it easier to get open looks. And if you think about it, almost every elite defensive stopper in the Western Conference is nowhere near the size of Durant. Dylan Brooks and Herb Jones, they're both 6'7". Same for Andrew Wiggins and Matisse Thybulle, who's even shorter than all of those guys we just mentioned. The point is, no one defender can match up with KD, and it's been that way since he was a rookie. And that's going to work awesome in this Suns offense, because they like to play on the elbow a lot, and they use a ton of double screens and cross screens on the elbow to create space for their shooters and scorers. And with that, you have one of the most gifted point guards of all time, CP3, running the show. He's going to make sure KD gets the ball at the right time, every time. And remember, at the beginning of the season, KD was more incredible than usual from the mid-range. Through his first 26 games of the year with the Nets, Durant was very lethal from that area on the court. Efficiency-wise, he was outstanding, shooting 57% from the mid-range. And to make that number even more impressive, he had over 100 more attempts than any other player hitting over 50%. He had shot 184 shots from the mid-range up to that point, hitting a ridiculous 104 of them. But he's not just putting up numbers in the mid-range, because he's shooting 40% from 3 over his last 7 games. And we all know he can heat up from deep in a hurry. And just like he can in the mid-range, he can rise over you in the exact same way from 3. And that's where he really gets unstoppable. But what really makes him overall a great offensive player is his ability to make plays for others when he needs to. We're not saying he's LeBron when it comes to passing the ball, but he's not averaging 5 assists by accident. He showed he could do that in last year's playoffs in the first round versus the Boston Celtics, where he averaged 6 assists per game. And yes, he also averaged 5 turnovers that series, but if you watched closely, he made a lot of impressive reads and showcased his underrated court vision, all while he was going against one of the most talented defensive teams we've seen in a long time. Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Grant Williams, and Derek White all together on one team proved to be just a bit too much for even the Slim Reaper. But nonetheless, KD showed the ability to read defenses and consistently make the right basketball play. On defense, this is where we think he'll have the biggest impact, other than scoring, of course, because he's having maybe his best defensive season in his entire career. And he's mentioned on multiple occasions this year that he is prioritizing defense. And the Phoenix Suns were already ranked 8th in defensive rating. And sure, a lot of that had to do with Mikal Bridges, but even with him gone, they can still be a top 10 defense. Durant is averaging some of his best shot blocking numbers since his time in Golden State, and he and Nick Claxton were both the Nets' defensive anchors, and they did great. The Suns are already 11th in the NBA in points allowed in the paint, so adding the man half responsible for the Nets' great paint defense can potentially be amazing for the Suns. Plus, he's 23rd in the NBA in total blocks with 57. And you know what's really scary? It's obvious that when KD has more offensive help, you can take short breaks when needed that doesn't really take the load off of being the main guy. And that allowed him to put more effort and energy on the defensive end, which is why he was such a good defender in Golden State and even this year. And now he's playing with a very talented and well-coached team in Phoenix with Chris Paul, Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, who can get their own shot at a high level, and not to mention their solid bench scorer TJ Warren. But not only is Durant a good shot blocker, but he's pretty versatile and he can be switchable on defense. He's extremely long, and when he sits down in the chair and guards out on the perimeter, he moves his feet pretty well. He doesn't waste steps at all. He uses his long strides to cover ground quickly. But now, what about the other players on the Suns roster? Let's talk about how they're performing and how they'll benefit KD, starting with Chris Paul. While he's not having his best year, he's still averaging 13, 4, and 9 on good efficiency, and his playmaking is exactly what Durant needs, a passer who can put him in position to score every time he comes down the court. He's a masterful floor general, but he can still get buckets. Paul is 12th in the NBA in shots within 15 to 19 feet, and it's no secret that he's one of the most elite mid-range scoring point guards in the game. He has beautiful touch, and even though he stands at about 6 feet tall, he's shifty enough to get defenders off balance, which gives him the time to rise up for the jumper. He's shooting 37% from 3 as well, so he's still an elite point guard in this league, even without scoring a whole bunch. And on defense, he's averaging 1.6 steals per game, and he still brings that bulldog defensive mentality. He's still got those really quick hands, and he'll get physical with you too. But now on to Devin Booker, who's averaging 26, 4, and 5. And just like KD and Chris Paul, Booker is a mid-range assassin. He's top 7 in the league in shots within 15 to 19 feet, and he's 8th in shots within 10 to 14. He can score with the best of them. And having a scorer like Booker is going to open up a lot of things for Durant offensively. Another positive with Booker, he's a solid playmaker as well, and a good overall decision maker. And this, again, will open up things for the Slim Reaper. A player like him thrives around unselfish players, and Phoenix is 3rd in the league in assists per game. So it's safe to say they know a little thing or two about ball movement. And on the defensive end, when Booker is locked in, he's a really solid defender. He's technically sound defensively, and that shows how well he's been coached in Phoenix, as well as his hard work. But someone else on this roster who puts in work is their center DeAndre Ayton, who's averaging 18 points and 10 rebounds per game. So he's putting up all-star caliber numbers. But one stat that he's doing really great in that goes kind of unnoticed is he's 9th in the NBA in screen assists per game. So he knows how to get his teammates easy buckets by using his large 250-pound frame. He's also 12th in rebounding and 8th in double-doubles. So KD has basically 3 all-star caliber teammates now. They all play great basketball together, and they can each score or get others in a position to score. So just an overall great situation to be in if you're Durant. And then you have players like Torrey Craig who do things that don't jump off the stat sheet but are just as important as scoring 20 a game. While he's only averaging 7 points per game, he's a really good shooter who's shooting over 40% from 3. But not only that, he's a good rebounder and a really good defender who can guard multiple positions. Then you have Josh Okogie, who's been a great high-energy defender for Phoenix this season. He's always flying around trying to make plays, and that's what a team with championship aspirations needs. And Bismack Biyombo, he's secretly the biggest reason for the Suns' solid paint defense. He's a really good rim protector who will jump and contest with anyone, while also having solid switching ability. Then you have Damian Lee, Saban Lee, and Terrence Ross, who are very solid bench pieces, especially Damian, who's shooting really well, over 40% from 3. And not to mention the Suns' latest addition, Darius Bazley. He's someone to keep an eye on. He's a great cutter and solid scorer, while also being a solid defender, being 6'9" with good mobility. And then, of course, you still have Landry Shamet and Cam Payne. So the Suns have plenty of depth and a whole lot of firepower. But of course, what do you think? What chance do you give the Suns to win the finals this year? Let us know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.